Hey, what's up everybody, it's Alby, and today I'm going to be going over the list that I used during game day. I managed to bring home the championship playmat, came in first place using this white-blue tempo list that one of the guys in my LGS, he top-aided a PPTQ, and then as he was going to leave, he asked me if I wanted to play this list for game day. And I was like, sure, whatever, because I was playing Bant Aetherworks Marvel before, but I wasn't getting the results that I wanted to with Bant Aetherworks Marvel, so when he offered to let me just use the deck that he was playing at the PPTQ, I was like, sure, whatever, I'll try this out. So it's a white-blue tempo list, really cool deck, managed to come in first place, like I said, and I'll try not to bore you with too many details, and we'll go ahead and just get right into the deck list. So we're going to start off with our 1-drops and our 2-drops. We're looking at 4 copies of Thraben Inspector, 4 copies of Glory-Bound Initiate, as well as 4 copies of Selfless Spirit. As you guys can tell, we're trying to stay kind of like low to the ground, or not low to the ground, but just kind of lower on the mana curve. You know, we have the 1-drops with the Thraben Inspectors. They can draw us some cards as well as put a body on the table. Glory-Bound Initiate, very nice little aggro card. And then Selfless Spirit is very good against Fumigate since we're a creature deck. Selfless Spirit does a lot of work. Onto the 3-drops, we're looking at 4 copies of Spell Queller, 2 copies of Thalia Heretic Cathar, and then 1 copy of Devoted Cropmate. Obviously, in a blue-white tempo deck, you're obviously playing 4 Spell Quellers. It's just a really, really good card. The Thalias are nice, however, they're legendary, so you can't really be running more than 2 Thalias. Also, the 3-mana spot, there's a lot of things that we could do with 3 mana, something like play a Glory-Bound Initiate and another Thraben Inspector. We could hold up Spell Queller mana, we could hold up mana for something else. So having the 2 Thalias in the deck is nice. It's just a nice little beater, but we don't want to play too many of them. Devoted Cropmate is a new card from Amonkhet. It's a very interesting card. It didn't seem as good as I thought it would be. When he was explaining how the deck worked, it seemed pretty solid. You could get back things like Selfless Spirit, Glory-Bound Initiate, and Thraben Inspector. Those are really the only targets in the deck. But getting back another Glory-Bound Initiate or getting back another Selfless Spirit is still really solid with this Devoted Cropmate. Then, even though it's not a creature, we're going to go ahead into the 4 and 5 drops here. So at the 4 drop, we're playing a full play set of 4 copies of Gideon, as well as a full play set of 4 copies of Archangel Avacyn. Gideon is just an amazing card. It's constantly been putting up great results at the Pro Tour level, as well as just like smaller competitive events as well. And Archangel Avacyn, same thing, just keeps putting up good results. Card's been around. Gideon and Avacyn feel like they've been around forever, and they're always like just put into the same decks together, and they just constantly do great work. Avacyn really does well in this type of a tempo deck because we have other things that we can do on our opponent's turn where we can hold up mana, and then if they decide not to do anything, we can just flash in an Avacyn, as well as the indestructible trigger being nice if we don't have a Selfless Spirit to protect us from the Fumigates. Onto the non-creature spells in the deck. Obviously Gideon was a non-creature as well, but in terms of instant sorceries and possible removal spells, we're looking at 3 copies of Censor and 2 copies of Spell Shrivel. The 3 copies of Censor are really good tempo play as well, and the 2 copies of Spell Shrivel are also good, really for tempo plays. The stuff that Spell Queller can't hit, most likely the Spell Shrivel will be able to hit, so it definitely works as just kind of a hedge to see if we do go into the late game. It gives us a little bit of protection against things that are above 4 CMC, since the Spell Queller can't hit those. Final spells, we're looking at 2 copies of Cast Out and 2 copies of Stasis Snare, some removal just in case we don't have the counter spells in our hand at the time. Stasis Snare, obviously a really good card, and Cast Out, obviously a really good card as well, both of which have flash, so we can go ahead and get rid of things like Emrakuls and Torrential Gearhulks if they do those, you know, at instant speed and things like that. Those are basically it for the cards. We're looking at the mana base then. So we have 4 copies of Irrigated Farmland, 4 copies of Port Town, 4 copies of Prairie Stream as our non-basic lands that tap for color. Those are pretty self-explanatory. The only non-basic that doesn't tap for white or blue is this 1 copy of Westvale Abbey. If we have like 4 Thraben Inspectors or something like that, and then a Knight Ally token from Gideon, it makes sense sometimes to just make the Ormondal instead and try and get in there for lethal with him. Other than that, we have basic lands. There are 7 plains in the deck, and then there are 4 islands in the deck. This is the deck I played for game day. There's a sideboard that you guys can see on your screen right about now. Those are the cards that were used in the sideboard. As you can tell, the deck is very good against Marvel, Aetherworks Marvel, and so a lot of the sideboard cards were also kind of dedicated towards that because we really wanted to make sure that we could beat the Marvel matchup. However, nobody that I played during game day was playing Aetherworks Marvel, so that was pretty nice. Still managed to get there with the deck. Deck seemed really sweet. And that's basically it. Hopefully you guys all had a great game day experience. If you guys went to game day, tell me how you guys did in the comments below, as well as tell me if you guys enjoyed this deck tech, if you guys want to see more things like this. If you want the deck techs to be a little bit longer, where I go more in depth on each and every single card, or if you want them kind of shorter like this one was. Go ahead and tell me down low in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.